Do not attempt to adjust your computer. There is nothing wrong. We have taken control as to bring you this special show. The Mothership flies through cyberspace once again. My name is Dobie Maxwell, also known as the King of Uranus. I will be piloting this mothership along to my right with co-pilot Greg DeGuire, freshly back like the $6 million man from his hip surgery replacement. Greg, how you doing, buddy? Are you walking well?
Yes, I walk well.
Oops, I think the outer space we're getting.
Yes,
we're getting
that's an alien email right there.
They
We just
put
heard it.
that as a note in their notebook.
Yes.
He walks well.
Exactly. No, it's just because it's amazing to me how quickly that you're, as we're recording this, it's been, what, a month?
Yeah, about that. The only thing that I've got now is I have feet problems. Because now that I'm walking correctly, because my feet have been twisted and bent for so many years, now that they're what the doctors call footfall is correct, my feet are in sometimes pain because I haven't landed correctly.
Because your shoes are worn out like this. It's like putting warped tires in the front end of your car and getting a front end alignment.
So now I have to go through that again before anyone's.
Also joining us to our millennial falcon, your right, my left, Carrie Turner, the lovely and talented, freshly tanned, being outside, looking at the eclipse. We just had an eclipse recently when this was.
Yes.
Where were you guys when you watched it?
I was on the surface of Uranus.
Oh, fun.
I heard about. Oh, this is Al, our intergalactic pal too. If you want to text him, he is available as well. The eclipse was a huge thing, and I couldn't believe how overreactive I thought people were.
Yeah.
They were actually getting hotel rooms in states in America. I don't know where else the rest of the globe. Getting hotel rooms for extra money
Missouri,
to see darkness.
Wyoming was one of the big ones.
Yes.
Washington was somewhere Washington State.
Yeah.
So it kind of cut
The
lower yes
middle.
diagonally.
And there are, what, 5 hotels in Wyoming, so try to get
I think
one.
all five, yes.
You could just
yes.
camp out
We're
somewhere.
going to call for those for 2024.
I had to work that day, so I was indoors, but it was cloudy, so you couldn't really see too much anyways. But in honor of the eclipse, what I did do is when I got home, I watched a very special Simpsons episode. You Simpsons fans out there, jeepers, I think it's season 3 or season 4. Nah, it escapes me. The episode is called Marge versus the Monorail. So some whiz-bang fly-by-night artist tries to sell Springfield a monorail because the Nuclear Regulatory Commission fines Mr. Burns for his nuclear power plant falling apart. So he's got to pay like a couple $1 million fine that goes right to the city. The city doesn't know what to do with the money, so they have a town hall meeting. And this guy comes in and sells a monorail to the town of Springfield. It's a good synopsis of the episode, by the way.
It is.
So Marge wants to fix the potholes on Main Street. So this guy comes up with a song and dance act, monorail, monorail, monorail. The whole town chants monorail, has a song about it and everything. So they decide to go forth with monorail. So Marge doesn't buy the monorail, so she goes to find out Langley was the feller's name. He sold monorails to 3 other towns and to put them on the map, by God. So she goes to the other towns to find out what happened to their monorails. Meanwhile, Homer goes and tries out to be the monorail conductor. Smartest monorail conductor ever he was. So he gets the job somehow. Marge goes to these other towns. She's suspicious. He walks into Mr. Langley's construction trailer and sees an artist rendition of Mr. Langley with a briefcase full of money in an airplane saying, "Bye, suckers." He had this in a notebook. Found it in his trailer. So Homer gives the family a tour of the monorail engine where they open up. This is one of my favorite scenes in Simpsons history. He opens up a compartment to find a family of possum have taken residence inside the monorail. And Marge's like, "Homer, that's a family of possums." And Homer says, "I call the big one Bitey." So the next day, Marge goes to Ogdenville to find where the monorail was. Turns out the town's a ghost town, but there's a specific scientist who says, "You got me just in time. You better have a damn good conductor to stop the monorail." And of course, it's Homer. And Homer doesn't know anything. So the monorail starts, loses power, and it's going about 100 miles an hour around the track, and around and around and around and around and around, and around, and everyone's going crazy. Leonard Nimoy is a special guest monorail person, and no one knows who he is. Mayor Quimby says, "May the force be with him." And Leonard Nimoy's like, "Do you even know who I am?" It's hilarious. Krusty wants to jump off the monorail, and Leonard Nimoy stops him. "No, Krusty, the world needs laughter." Just as the monorail seems like it's going to go up in flames, what happens? A solar eclipse. Because the monorail is solar powered. So the eclipse happens. 100% solar eclipse happened in Springfield as it happened in our lower 48. And Leonard Nimoy said, and I quote, The solar eclipse. The cosmic ballet continues. So that's what I did for the solar eclipse day.
Highly illogical, Captain.
Highly illogical.
Now, I guess I admit being the old croaker on the show. Back in, I don't remember where it was. I believe it was the 70s when I was going to school. They had another solar eclipse, I believe. We could only watch it through a shoebox with a hole poked into it.
Yep.
Now, what was that? I don't know why we did
So
it.
you had to do that because you can't look at the sun. So you hold the box thusly, so your back is towards the sun. So you're watching the shadows played out on the cardboard. So you cut a hole through something with another flat surface, and you can see the shadow being overtaken. You see the sun being overtaken.
Moon crescent.
So it'll look like a moon crescent.
Yeah.
So that's what you do to watch the eclipse.
Get like a colander.
Yep. Then when it's full eclipse, you can quick look at the sun's corona. All it's not recommended. But that is why. On a quick side note,
why is it not recommended?
Because you can't look at the sun. You're right. No, you'll get retina burn. On the case of retina burn, there were, I saw in the news, more than a fair dozen people went to the ER afterwards because they put, ready for this, folks, suntan lotion on their eyeballs, so they could look at the sun and not be affected by it.
It was so stupid it made me sneeze.
Suntan lotion on your eyeballs.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations, Darwin Award winners.
Clue phone, line one. It's the proctologist. He found your head.
Yeah, so then they had these special NASA-approved sunglasses. T-RIF, sign me up for those. NASA is supposed to stand for National Aeronautics and Space Administration, but doing this for so long, NASA also stands for something else. Never a straight answer. So I'm not going to wear NASA-approved sunglasses. I'm sorry, NASA.
After the space shuttle came on, I must have been not even 2 hours. I heard NASA stands for need another 7 astronauts. How does it, the coldness of humanity? I wonder if the sense of humor around the cosmos is that way. You figure other alien beings, you know, how many plutonians does it take to blah, blah, blah. That's our first communication. They get some wacky, hold my big green finger.
Aliens, they're just like us.
They're kooky. They're wacky.
But they fart out of their ears instead of their butts.
Alien fart jokes. Yeah, exactly. There's a great band name, Greg.
Alien fart jokes.
Alien fart jokes.
I'm putting it on the list.
Opening for
the AFGs.
If you're just joining us, what Greg likes to do, if we have a saying that a twist of a phrase somehow that any one of us says or you said, Carrie, how can people get a hold of us?
We got the Mothership Facebook page, so that's easy to look up, and then our Gregory DeGuire friend page. Mm-hmm. So with the big elephant trunk for George Clinton.
Exactly right.
Well, real quick special thanks to the wife, Lori DeGuire. We had a little bit of a thank you, Lori. We had a bit of a technical snafu before the recording of this specific episode, and she got us up and running.
Wait till we get her bill before you think her too much.
And we were going to hold out until Adam got here in 20 minutes.
Yeah,
the unseen crew member.
Yeah, I think she's going to get a big bowl of ice cream or some treat.
Her 80 cents back.
Yes.
With an edible bowl, one of those edible sugar, you know.
Now I want one. Now I want one. Thanks.
So nice.
Yeah. So we're talking about the eclipse. Now there's I remember SME, sun, moon, earth, and sun, earth, moon. How does it? Sometimes the moon goes in front of the sun.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. I'm like, what?
What
it's the end of the world if the sun is between the earth.
The sun is between Earth and the moon. That would be too. It'd be a little toasty.
It'd be a little toasty.
A little toasty.
So
exactly.
here's a quick.
No wind chill.
No.
Yeah.
Here's a few fun factoids. Our moon is the only moon in this solar system that does this with the sun. No other planetoid that's in our little solar system has a moon that does this with the sun. Ours is the only one.
Uranus.
I was on Uranus, exactly, between the moon.
And there's no explanation as to why that is. But the mathematical odds of having the moon be at such and such a size, is it 864,000 kilometers, or I forget the exact number. Anyways, to have the moon be such an exact size that it fits perfectly in your line of sight over the sun, odds are, not to use a pun, astronomical. That can't be luck, because it doesn't happen anywhere else. But yet it happens with the sun and the moon. I don't know why. Some would say that the moon was parked there, that the moon is the largest UFO, and no one seems to...
The Death Star.
Yeah, the moon is the Death Star. There's a few odd things about the moon. We can turn this into another episode, but...
No, we can continue.
That's good.
So there are those that say that the moon is hollow. Astronauts, when they were up there, they used seismic survey charges. So what that does is it blows things up, and they have these seismic surveys that registers the ground rattling. They can kind of get a good idea of what things are made of, what kind of rock might be underneath. So they did this on the moon, and the moon vibrated. What that would mean to tell NASA that the moon is hollow. Also, the moon, the surface has the heaviest stuff. As they dug deeper, they got to softer stuff. That doesn't make any sense.
No.
Because if there was volcanic activity, that there should be some hardened areas by volcanic rock inside, but none of that is true. All the hard stuff is on the outside, all the soft and gooey, squishy stuff is on the inside. That goes against most rules.
Kind of like a box of candy, you know?
Kind of like a box of candy. It's got a crusty
Miles
candy
bar.
exterior, yes. They don't know why that is, but if you were going to build an interstellar vehicle that's going to travel a long way, you want to build it so it can take a licking and keep on ticking. And what happens
I
to
want
the
to
moon?
have a good cup holder.
And also a giant beverage holder. The moon gets pounded by asteroids daily, and yet it remains. So maybe it was built that way on purpose. Anything is possible. Anyone want to read more about that? Jim Marrs, the author. I tried to get him when we had the radio show, but he is a hard man to get. He's got a book called Alien Agenda. Fascinating. The first 2 chapters are all about the moon.
Okay.
And he doesn't really he puts in his 2 cents worth, but he's just listing odd facts about the moon that no one seems to know why it does what it does. So we were only up there there was only 13 astronauts on the surface of the moon, and we haven't been back since the 60s. So we learned everything that there is to know about the moon in just a few tries. We brought back a couple of tons of moon rock, of which, by the way, half is missing. They don't know what happened to it. So moon rock is the most valuable element on this planet that we brought from another planet. Half of it is gone. They don't know what happened.
I want to make a confession here. I touched the moon rock when I was 8 years old. We had it at our school. They landed the moon, and they had a little piece of moon rock, and they said, "Don't touch the moon rock. Whatever you do, don't touch the moon rock."
I
You
touched
tell
the
an
moon rock.
8-year-old boy
Holding
that.
hands.
And the thing is, so I'm touching you with the moon rock.
Yeah.
Oh.
And the security guard turned the other way, and the class would go up there. We get their chance to look at it, and I had to touch it, and all my teeth and hair fell out. And I was immediately rushed to the hospital. I just got out 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's odd moon stuff.
What do you think it is? I mean, obviously, if you had the moon rock, wouldn't it be made of the same stuff as the universe, and basically the same stuff that the Earth is
One
made
would
of?
think, but there's not one. All right, so some would theorize that the Earth in its beginning stages was hit by a larger meteor. This is primordial times. And the Earth was hit with something large, and a glob of the Earth come off, and that just got caught in orbit, and that became the moon. That's a widely recognized
I
theory.
don't know about that.
If that's the case, then they would find some commonalities. Even in a non-atmospheric condition, they would find something that could say, yes, this is found on Earth too, so that theory is sound. Not one thing have they found up there that they can find down here.
Empty
Not one
McDonald's
thing.
bags.
Yeah, no McDonald's cartons. What they did, they found Arby's containers, but I don't know what that
Nobody
says
goes
about
there
Arby's.
anymore,
Yeah.
so we don't count it.
Also, as far as an eclipse goes, the moon doesn't rotate, not one bit.
Mm-mm.
So we see the same side of it all the time. So the dark side of the moon is usually perpetually dark. That's what they call the dark side. So when the sun hits the dark side in an eclipse, what happens to it? I mean, it never, ever, ever gets that kind of sunlight. I mean, don't you think if we want to learn more about the dark side, and scientists always claims that they do, why don't you put a guy up there when you know there's going to be a solar eclipse? They know when these things are going to happen
Yeah.
years in advance. You put somebody up there on the dark side, so when it's hit by sun, oh my God, look at all this crap. We didn't know it was up here. We couldn't see anything.
They got 7 years to prep for the next one.
Yeah, why doesn't that happen?
Couldn't they have landed some kind of a remote camera?
Of course they can. They've got
Then
they've
they
got
did.
Stuff on Mars.
If they can, they did.
yeah. Then they're just not telling us about it.
Mhm.
Yeah, they got the Viking probes, the Mars rovers,
Mhm.
and they thought, well, once they land, they'll give us a couple of weeks, and they'll die. Not true. They're still going.
Yeah.
Even the Voyager is still sending us back information. That is out there.
Yeah.
That is so far out there. That thing was built back in the 60s.
George Jetson still pipelining stuff. in.
They're going to find his boy Elroy before too long.
Jane, his wife.
Jane, his wife,
Judy.
daughter Judy. What was the name of the maid robot?
Rosie.
We were talking about that at work. There's a fellow TV fanatic at work, and we talk about old TV shows all the time, and we were stymied on what the hell was the name of the
You know
robot.
Jetsons, Gary?
Yeah.
No?
No, it was
You
on
have not
Cartoon
lived,
Network
young
when I
lady.
was a kid. But
But you never watched.
no.
Who were your
no.
cartoons? Was Saturday morning part of
Man,
it?
it was SpongeBob.
SpongeBob.
I gotta say, boy, I sit down and watch that. I can't.
I
I
love
know
into
he
it.
begs to
I
differ.
love me some SpongeBob.
What do you love about it?
It's clever.
Mr. Krabs. It's clever, and I love the mentality of Mr. Krabs because where I work, and I'm not going to say exactly where, but where I work,
We'll have to kill you if you tell me.
that is the Mr. Krabs mentality. It's all about profit. Mr. Krabs has the best lines. When customers come in a store, "Hi there, how can I take your money?"
How do you feel about opening a second restaurant? I like money.
I like money. Yeah, anytime someone wants to return something, there's super fine print that no one can read that says no refunds or no returns. That's always the finest print. And Mr. Krabs wants to sell extra. He wants to charge for what was it? Beverage cooling devices, ice cubes, or a beverage transfer device, which is a straw. So Mr. Krabs laid all this out, and he's charging all this stuff. And if you have to work overtime, it comes out of your own paycheck. So SpongeBob, we figured, never makes any money because anytime he's there past
He
8 hours,
wants to
comes
go
out of his own
overtime.
pocket. Yeah.
All he wants to do is work.
Yeah. So I find a lot of humor in Mr. Krabs because it really pokes fun at today's corporate mentality more than people give it credit for, I think. I'm not calling it super intelligent, super smart
Oh,
humor.
well, we can
It's
cut it
quite
off
hilarious.
at like the first couple of seasons. First couple of
The
seasons.
first
were gold.
5 seasons of SpongeBob will stack up against any cartoon that you name. I mean, I grew up with Tom and Jerry,
Yeah.
Bugs Bunny, Scooby Doo, and they were all gold as far as I was concerned. But you take the first 5 seasons of SpongeBob, will stack up against those golden cartoons as far as I'm concerned, and it matches right up.
Wow, that's high praise coming from both of you. I'll have to give it a chance. Because my sister babysits for kids, and I sometimes will sit in there for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, I can't get into
The
it.
new stuff is just nonsense, and it doesn't make sense. It
No,
just,
the new cartoon. I mean, I've watched episodes of Phineas and Ferb.
oh,
I
that
think
one's
that
fun.
they're okay.
I like
And
that.
didn't you and Adam went as Halloween characters with the cartoons?
Oh, we
or
went
whatever.
as Gravity Falls.
Gravity
We went as
Falls,
Wendy
yes.
and Dipper.
That is a paranormal-esque cartoon.
That's a good one, though.
It's a fun
it's
one.
very clever.
It's a very clever cartoon.
Dark cartoon.
Yep.
Like they bring in like demon spirits into the cartoon. Like, and this is a Disney Channel show too.
Now,
It is.
see, we talk about conspiracies. Allegedly, Disney is the 666 in Disney. Have you seen
I've
that?
heard of that one.
Oh,
All
yeah.
of it is the devil. It's backwards.
All of
Walt
the
Disney.
all of the phallic symbols that were found in the Little Mermaid poster.
Oh yeah,
The vagina shot of in Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
yeah.
When Jessica Rabbit falls out of when laser discs are on. Half of you don't know what a laser disc is,
Mhm.
but a laser disc is a giant record-sized
I
compact
don't know what a
disc.
record is either, Greg.
So
If they don't know what a laser disc is, they don't know what a record is.
it's about the size of a 12-inch pizza. I hope you know what
12-inch pizza.
hope you know what pizzas are. Anyways, the laser disc was before DVDs and compact discs,
Mhm.
but it was a digital copy of the film, not on a VHS tape. So
Oh, yeah.
when that technology was out, it was the first time you could pause and slow-mo in high detail and not be all fuzzy in between the lines. So there's a scene towards the end of the movie where the cartoon car is going in a tunnel and something hits the car and they all go flying out of the car and Jessica Rabbit is spread eagle. And if you pause in slow-mo, it's the sign from Basic Instinct. It's that scene when Sharon Stone opens her legs and, whoa, what the hell did I just see there? Same thing happens with Jessica Rabbit. It is there in full view. They had to have known what they were doing when they animated that, but I don't think they figured that when that went on Laserdisc that somebody would ever find that.
Right.
It's there. I don't know if it's been removed since then. I don't know, but if anyone
There was-
has, if you ever find the old-timey Laserdisc at some
I'm
Goodwill.
I'm going to beg to differ here. I talked to a person one time that was a collector. I wheel and deal in sports memorabilia because it gives me something to do on the road as a comedian. And I talked to other collectors, and there's allegedly the group that put together the cells of the Disney films back in the
Yeah.
whatever 40s and 50s that were so bored because it took so many cells per second to make the animation
Mhm.
that they would draw genitalia of male and female on them. Just because if you flick it real fast, one film, you're not going to see it in one cell. And those cells were Disney went and bought them up for hundreds of dollars each just so they could get them on. There's still a few that have snuck through that collectors still have, and they're worth just big money.
There was something like that in The Lion King too, and it was the part you haven't seen it though.
I've never seen The Lion King.
There's a part where older Simba is like thinking of his dad, and he like collapses on like a daffodil field or dandelion field or whatever, and the seeds go flying, but then when they're in the air, they make the word dick on there.
Oh, come on, those guys are bored animators. It's an inside joke.
Thank you for having a sense of humor, animators.
Something we would do too.
Yeah, yes.
I don't have a problem with
yes.
That. Now, I couldn't talk about this. Now we're going to get off on a tangent. How about the Pink Floyd, what is it?
Oh, I've done that. I've done that multiple times.
Okay, Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so
I've never done that.
If you've never done it before,
told me about it.
Here's what you do. So I've got my stereo hooked up to the TV, and I know nobody does it anymore because everything's everything is all wireless, and all these smart TVs where no one has a stereo hooked up to their TV anymore. So if you can't figure out how to do that, then you get like a boom box, or you queue up something queue up Dark Side of the Moon on your phone. However you can do it. So you put Wizard of Oz. You start it, and at the third lion's roar, the logo starts. It's a rah rah rah. As soon as that third lion's roar hits, you hit mute and you hit play on Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, and turn up the soundtrack, and you turn down the TV, and just sit back and watch the craziness. Musical changes and scene changes are seamless and flawless. I've done this several times, and Lori, who's a Wizard of Oz purist, hates any altercation or anything. She loves the movie. We got a room designated with all Wizard of Oz stuffs. I've got at least 7 different versions of Wizard of Oz on DVD, and I've seen them all. I've got the giant 10-disc 100th anniversary box set or whatever anniversary it was. Anyways, I watched the movie a lot. I had her do it, and she's not a huge musical fan. And I said, just what do you think when it was over? Because the disc ends, the Dark Side of the Moon ends with a heartbeat. That's how the disc ends. And at the same time, they all have their ears up against the Tin Man's chest listening. And when they find the Tin Man, they're listening for a heartbeat, and you can hear that.
Oh,
that's how the disc ends. Okay, but that's one out of at least 30 different weird occurrences. So I had her do it, and she never really heard of Pink Floyd. I mean, heard him, but never really didn't know all this. And she says, so wait a minute. Pink Floyd didn't know what they were doing? This is some kind of coincidence? That's what they said. They said they had no idea.
They also said they're not a drug band.
Well, even she's like, well, that's crazy. They had to have known because there's far too many weird things that happen. The next time we record, let's try to do it on a day where we can do this earlier. We'll do it. We'll make a hat captain so you guys can see the craziness.
Yeah.
So what I want you to do is I want you to get the Wizard of Oz and key them up with the Mothership connection.
See how they work out.
Exactly how it's cosmic.
One of the biggest ones is as soon as the house lands in Oz, there's a song change. It's real quiet for a second, and as soon as she opens the door to colorization, ching, ching, the song Money starts, and because it's the color green, and the song is a pretty long song, and how the song goes, the Munchkins are all dancing around, the music lines up exactly the same. There's a lyric earlier on, it's still in black and white, taking away the moments that break up a dull day. It's one of the lyrics in one of the songs. And at that time that lyric is playing, the lady who plays the Wicked Witch, I forget what her name is in the real world, is trying to take Toto away. Toto is one of the moments that break up a dull day, you see, because he's a fun dog, you see. So you get all these different, mind-boggling. If you've never done it, please do. Anyways.
Awesome.
Okay, now we're completely off track.
Now
we're I think
so back to the eclipses.
What is the plural of eclipse? Eclipses?
Eclipse eye. I don't know.
Eclipse a doodle doo.
Yeah. Any eclipse will do. Yeah, I don't know. If there was multiple eclipses, I know there's special planetary alignments. Sometimes you get the moon, the Venus, and the sun. You get all these things all lined up. And I'm sure there's some number freaks out there who will tell you that this all means something. And who's to say it doesn't? I mean, they talk about this stuff back in the days of the Mayan and Aztecs. They have all this stuff lined up. They took this stuff very seriously. Imagine back in the Stone Age, and you live and die by the sun. So all of a sudden, in the middle of the day, it goes dark. Get out of here. You're going to have mass suicides, people eating dinosaurs or whatever was around then. I mean, who knows? They probably went batty. What was the... It's funny, there's an eclipse in a movie, Apocalyptico. Anyone seen this Mel Gibson movie?
Mm. You didn't see The Wizard of Oz, you communist.
No, I didn't see Lion King.
That either.
Yeah. So
I didn't see The Wizard of Oz until about 35.
Really?
Yeah.
think what you want about Mel Gibson. I get it. It turns out that he's not a super cool guy, but he directed a movie called Apocalyptico, and this was about the end of the Mayan Empire, or the Mayan way of life. So they're showing what the Mayan Empire did to smaller out villages. They would kidnap people and murder them for the sake of their gods. Oh God, I can't. The bearded, anyways.
The bearded
The
guy.
name is escaping me. No, it's not a bearded lady, not out of the circus. Anyways, they take them at the top of the pyramids and they take their hearts out while they're still alive, and they slice their heads off to make sure that the gods are appeased. Especially later on when the lands were dying. Turns out the Mayan Empire probably died due to overpopulation. It was not a sustainable society. It grew too big. They outgrew the crops weren't growing anymore. They did too much and it went too far. Anyways, there's a scene in the movie where the hero of the movie is about to have his heart ripped out when there's an eclipse, a total eclipse of the sun, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, the gods have talked. This guy is spared because the sun just got blocked out.
Yeah.
So save this guy. He doesn't get to die. We'll kill him tomorrow, but he just got saved." So eclipses meant something, and I get that that's a movie, but still, you had to think that that must have gone on.
Yeah.
It had to have. So all this stuff, I mean, it's kind of neat now to see to witness these sorts of things. Even
nobody could predict it. That's
nobody
what
could
you're
predict it.
getting at.
Yeah. Even seeing Halley's Comet. Do you remember when it was around, like in the early 90s?
Mm-hmm.
We were able to see Halley's Comet. I don't think you were around. Were you? What year were you born?
97.
You were born under Halley's Comet.
Yeah.
So when Halley's Comet come around, that was a big deal. But we knew that was coming, and there's astrophysicists who tell us these things. But back then, nobody knew this stuff was going to happen. Can you imagine seeing something that close to the Earth and it's not that's not a star, and what the hell is that? That must have drove people insane. So it's something neat that happens now, but probably caused mass murder and suicide back in ancient times. So it's funny how you evolve as a society. It's funny. Well, maybe it's not funny, but it's interesting to say the least. Anyways.
This is a hard habit to break here. I don't know which direction that we're going. So if you want to get in touch again with us to ask what are you doing, where are you doing it, why are you doing it, we have a lot of ideas for future broadcasts. We have a lot of guests lining up from our radio show. We'd like to get back on the radio again for this. We're getting kind of together. Carrie, one more time, how can they get on? We encourage you guys to email us, get us on our list, subscribe.
And those of you who are here locally.
In Kenosha, by the way.
In Kenosha, by the way.
Yes.
We're always... if I know you, there's plenty of room for studio audience. I love to have people here. It's a fun place to be. You could see the set, as they say.
Right.
We
always
fun.
bring snacks and drinks and then just have a good time.
Yeah, it's fun.
Our email is tinfoiltalkshow@gmail.com. Then the Facebook page is Gregory DeGuire friend page, and then the Mothership Connection fan page.
So get on our list. As we are recording this, 9/11 is coming up. We are at the end of August for this particular recording. 9/11, obviously a conspiracy theorist's smorgasbord.
Dream.
Greg is the man. He's got his tinfoil hat on. He's taking more time in the bathroom than any man usually does. Reading
More than
out
his cat.
Cat, exactly. He's got call waiting, all that kind of stuff. Until next time, the Mothership flies. Join us. We appreciate you. Kirk out.